Hello again, everyone. Today I have a very unusual fountain pen to share with you. This is called the Platinum Glamour, and it was around, I think, between the 70s and like the late 70s and the early 90s. I believe that this one is probably from the 80s at some point. So I purchased this off of eBay from a very lovely gentleman who sent me this beautiful note along with this pen. He lives in Brazil. This came all the way from Brazil, but it looks like he purchased this in one of his visits to Japan. He was saying that he is now a retired Navy Master Chief Petty Officer Submariner Specialist. That's a lot of things. And this was something that he'd gotten. Oh, it looks like, let's see, I got it during my trips abroad. So maybe Japan, maybe elsewhere. So, but I thought it was a really nice little added thing to have this in this letter, and I'm just going to keep that with the pen or keep it with my fountain pen stuff so that I know where it came from, which is kind of nice. And it's kind of nice when you have vintage pens that sort of have a bit of written history with it, because then you kind of know where it came from. But anyway, so this pen, I saw it. Where did I first see it? I saw it, I think I was searching for mini pens. And I saw this on someone's blog, I believe. And I thought, well, that is a very unusual pen. And I started to do a little bit of a search on it. And there are actually quite a few out there. So this is by Platinum. It did have a limited run. But when I saw this, I thought, well, that would be a very interesting pen to acquire for my vintage pen collection. And I ultimately found this, a few on eBay. They vary in price. This one does not have a gold nib. It has a stainless steel nib. So you probably can expect to pay a little bit more for the ones with the gold nibs on them. And I did actually see a white and a pink as well. But the classic black is kind of what I was looking for. And I got this in an auction where my winning bid was under $60. So I figured that was perfectly reasonable. I probably would have gone a little bit higher for it because I did like the look of it, and it is kind of an oddball as far as the pen is concerned. So it has these little ribs around. I showed this to my husband, and I don't even want to tell you what he said it looked like, but you could probably guess from my tone. But it's very now that he said that, I have a hard time handling the pen, but it really is quite cute. And I just loaded it up with a cartridge. This pen actually takes international mini cartridges. I think that I might try to get a Kaweco converter and see if I can get it to fit in here, because then I can fill it with whatever ink I want. So this is what it looks like closed. And I have fairly small hands, so you can see it's a pretty small pen. Let's see, actually, let me get I have a really funky tape measure here. So let me see. So this is, let's see, it's about 4 inches long and about 3/4 of an inch wide, 1 inch at the widest point. And then when you open it, it's a pull cap. And then it has this very interesting nib on it, which is kind of wide and stubby. And it just says Platinum Medium, I believe, on here. And on some of the pictures that I've seen that actually have the gold nib, they will have 14K in between platinum and the size of the nib. So it's kind of neat. And it has this chunky little feed on the other side. And then I will open this and show you. So it just fits a little international cartridge here. The short are the only ones that will fit. But I do think that I could probably fit the Kaweco, the little Kaweco converters, because I think there's enough room here. And the cartridge actually seated quite nicely in here. Sometimes when you put cartridges in, they can be a little wobbly, but it fit perfectly and it's really secure in there. And what I ended up putting in here is Kaweco Purple, because that's what I had. I don't have a lot of cartridges that I purchased in Short International, so because I do tend to replace the pens with converters. Okay, so let me show it to you posted. Oh, and it has this nice little bit on the end here, and the other end is rounded, and it does post quite nicely. And it has the sticker still from the original purchase. It says it was 3,400 yen originally. And let me go ahead and do a writing sample. So it probably, I haven't given it a whole lot of time for the ink to saturate through the feed, so it's probably going to write a little bit lighter than it will eventually once it's fully soaked through the feed. But it definitely writes nice enough. And this is Nemesine paper that I'm writing on. And I actually did a little test on another page and it writes quite nicely. Oh, it actually has already gotten darker since the last time. Platinum. Glamour. Spelled the English way. With a steel. Oops. You get it. You know what I mean. Steel medium nib. And it writes very nicely. I would say that the nib is very well tuned. You get just a hair finer side to side, I would say. Here, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that a little better. And it really writes quite nicely. And this ink is a Kaweco Purple Short International. Cartridge. And I'm actually super surprised at how nice it writes, and I actually think that I could use this as an everyday writer. It's pretty comfortable to write with. I found that the chunkier pens do tend to be more comfortable to write with. It's super, super smooth. I wonder if this was tuned and smooth at some point, or if it just came this way. Platinum is generally a pretty good brand. But I don't even think that this gentleman who I purchased it from ever used it. So I'm probably the first user of this pen. I do tend to hold my pens when I'm writing with them pretty far back. So if you can see, sometimes I'll have my hand all the way back here. And actually, it's not uncomfortable on the ridged part, but I could do it up here as well. I find that sometimes my writing feels a little cramped when I get that close, so let's do the quick brown fox. It's a fairly thin line for a medium. I'm also going to write in block lettering. All right. And I would say it's not an overly wet writer, but it's not overly dry either. It's kind of in the middle. And I think it's quite nice. There are still some available out there. You can find them if you look for them. The prices do tend to vary. Like I said, you probably can expect to pay a little bit more for a gold nibbed pen. I think I actually got quite a good deal on this one, and as with most things, you know, on eBay and with auctions, you can either get a really great deal or you can pay too much. I have done both for fountain pens for sure. But it's worth taking a look if you think this is interesting to you. They're still out there. I don't know how limited the run was for these. And like I said, the color I'm seeing most frequently is this black, but I have seen pink, oh, and a light blue. I don't know if I mentioned that already. I'd seen a light blue and a white. So they do come in a variety of colors, but black is the classic one. And if this is any indication of the other steel nibs that you might find in this particular model, this steel nib writes great. I mean, I don't think I would need to have a gold nib in this pen just because it does write so beautifully. It is a fairly thin line for a medium, like I was saying, but it does write really nice. It's really smooth on this paper, which is Nemacine paper. I've kind of switched to this for a little while to do testing to see how I like the paper. And so far I like it. It's, again, I think with a lot of Japanese papers that tend to be a little bit thicker, they work better with finer nibs. And this is probably a generalization, but I do think that people in Japan tend to write with thinner nibs generally, just because of the written language tends to be easier to do with a fine nib. At least that's my assumption. And that might be why the papers, which are a little bit thicker, tend to cater towards finer nibs. But this writes beautifully on here. But that's all I had for you today. I just wanted to show you this little oddball that I got, and hopefully you found that interesting. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. And I hope to see you next time. But until then, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.